Welcome to Prajavahini. This is Archana Swami, bringing some interesting and inspiring stories onto this platform. On the eve of International Civil Aviation Day on December 7th, we have an airline pilot turned entrepreneur who has aviation industry experience of over 25 years as our guest today. Learning to fly modern aircraft is challenging and exciting. Aviation sector jobs undoubtedly are one of the most aspirational jobs in the world. Captain Gaurav Nath, who has graduated in the top 1% from flight academies in India and London, comes with an experience of flying multiple aircrafts, including Boeing 737 and Airbus 320. In addition, he is one of the few professionals in India who is trying to bring the experience of manned aviation into upcoming unmanned aviation sector. With the evolution of regulations, we see drones headed for new heights in the business world. Let's know more about the world of aviation through his experiences. It's an honor to have you on our show, Captain. Thank you for gracing us on this Prajavahini show.
Thank you, Archana. Thank you so much for getting me on your show. And congratulations to you and your team for rolling out some really engaging content week after week.
Thank you very much. It's coming back to your pilot's profile. How is it a typical day in a pilot's life?
Oh, so a typical day is quite interesting. It's roughly about 10 to 11 hours of duty every day. If you're talking about short to medium haul pilots, So I was flying the 737s and the 320, which are short to medium haul aircrafts. So basically the program is known to you typically a couple of weeks in advance and fairly stable roster, so you know where you're going and all of that. And it's generally multiple legs that you fly. It's not like if you do a Bengaluru-Delhi flight and you're done. It's you do multiple sectors in a day. So and your pickup, drop, transport, all of that is taken care of. So the depending on the time of your flight, a vehicle arrives on time, takes you to the airport. You have your pre-flight medical, then you have your pre-flight briefing where you go through all the papers for the flight, prepare yourself for the flight, the weather conditions, the technical status of the aircraft. You interact with the crew that you're flying with that day, and so on and so forth. Then, after that you reach the aircraft, you have a pre-flight check of the aircraft, some visual inspection, a lot of paperwork. Then in the meantime, boarding, refueling, all of that happens, and you get airborne after that. And then there are these, high workload and lean times, during the flight, where high workload is all the way from door close after the passenger boarding all the way till about 10,000 feet. And then progressively the workload decreases, and then you reach cruise. That's where the workload is minimum, and you have your meals and your toilet breaks and all of that. And then close to about top of descent again, your workload increases, where you collect or gather the information required for that landing, like weather information and so on and so forth, and sort of get whatever information, the technical status of the airfield and all of that into your short-term memory by doing a approach briefing. And then you go and land, park the aircraft, and the same process you repeat 2 or 3, 4 times, and then you're done and you take the cab and you're either in a hotel or back home. Yeah.
So it's like pilot's job is not to put the plane on autopilot mode and just run. It's like a lot of documentation. Yes. And every time the flight you fly, you always have a check around?
Yes. The pre-flight, all the inspections are pretty much mandatory. When during the first flight of the day, you do more checks. Subsequently, in the transit, checks are slightly shorter.
Okay. And once you park it, then your job is done.
Yes. So basically, after you park, so you continue to be in charge of the aircraft till the time the last passenger disembarks and all the cargo is offloaded, and you sign the papers. So there is a post-flight defect report that you sign. Any failure that you've encountered or any malfunction that you've encountered during the flight, you enter it in the post-flight defect report, and you brief the engineer about it so that he can fix it before the aircraft gets airborne again. So that's when the duty ends. Yeah.
So all of these need to be submitted in your office?
Yes. So after we've completed the 2-3 legs, whatever, or 4 legs that we are rostered for, there's a bundle of documents that we submit back in the office, so which is preserved for a certain specified period, and yeah, so the duty pretty much ends there.
But it is quite a strenuous job. It's a long hour.
It is, but doing it over and over again, you get used to that thing. It becomes part of your. It becomes second nature, I would say. Yeah.
So what made you choose flying as your career?
So there's an interesting story, Archana. In the growing up years when I was a teenager, medicine or engineering were the popular options. So I gravitated towards medicine. And after I finished my +2, I appeared for these pre-flight medical entrance exams. And while I was waiting for the result, I happened to attend a wedding reception. And in the wedding reception, the groom was a pilot. So while I was we were on the stage with the bride and the groom. The photographer ran out of camera roll, and he was changing the camera roll. And during that time, I had a little conversation with the groom. And he asked me about my hobbies. So I told him, hobbies are photography and driving, riding, traveling. So he said, oh, then why don't you become a pilot? So I said, I don't know anything about it. So in those 2-3 minutes of conversation that we had, he briefed me about it. I took his advice seriously. The next day I picked up my bike, went to the Lucknow Flying Club, and filled up the form and gave the entrance, got selected, and the rest is history.
Awesome. So one instance, that 2-3 minutes changed your due course of life.
Conversation, yes. So it, to me, it pretty much happened by chance rather than by choice. Yeah.
That's quite interesting though. Yeah. And what do you think who are aspiring to be pilots, the must know things or the key points which may not be available on Google or with some information? With your experience, if you can derive some points for us.
Yeah, so a popular myth is that, if you're a pilot, you don't have to study too much, but in the life of a pilot, studies and getting your licenses is not a one-time event. You have to do recurrent trainings. There are annual refreshers, and then you have 6 monthly proficiency trainings and checks. So there is a lot of studying involved, and also the technology keeps evolving. New systems, new procedures come into picture. So you have to train on all these and acquire new skills and qualifications. So it's almost like a lifelong event. So and the passing percentage for technical subjects is 80, and for non-technical subjects is 70. So you have to be right up there. Okay. So it's a lot of studying. And the other thing is, one has to be very, very disciplined about, their lifestyle. So basically, you work in constantly changing shifts. So you have to manage your sleep, you have to manage the food, and you have to make sure that you exercise, to remain fit. So these are certain things that people must know. Whoever's wanting to opt for this, if they are up for all this, they should go for it.
Somewhere people are used to this style where 9-to-5 jobs. I'm sure now people are thinking of other options too. Right. But this is like quite challenging with the time slots more than anything. Yes. According to you, what are the perks of being a pilot?
I think plenty, you get to travel to a whole lot of places. You get to meet a huge variety of people, who speak different languages, different cultures. Different thought process, different style of working. For example, when I used to fly from India, go to Muscat, the ground support staff would be Omanis. They function in a way very different from, when I take an aircraft and go to Singapore. They're culturally very different people, and they operate very differently. So you actually, your worldview kind of becomes very broad when you interact with people from different regions, different geographies, different cultures, and all of that. So it's a very, very rich experience. And even in the cockpit, you may have an expat pilot or somebody from a different country, and you have those interactions. You get to learn a lot about their culture, and you tell them a lot about your culture. And despite all the differences and everything, you still have to gel together and work as a team. And do the task at hand very, very effectively. Yeah.
I mean, for a common person, for any of us, mostly it looks like the fanciest of the careers.
Right.
you get to fly, you get paid really well, and
Yeah.
these are the only aspects we see.
Hmm.
So, from a pilot's perspective, how do you see yourself?
So the job definitely is very glamorous, uniform, and you're nicely dressed. You go stay in some of the best hotels, in the country and abroad and all of that. But end of the day, it's a lot of responsibility, and the margin for error is very less. Everything that you say and you do is recorded. You have a cockpit voice recorder, you have a flight data recorder. So the level of accountability is very, very high. So you have to be right up there. Yeah.
Is it stressful?
Initially, maybe. Later on, like I told you, it becomes part of your second nature, and you just tend to ignore all the flight data recorder and the cockpit voice recorder, and you just do the right thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you want to share some interesting episodes of your flying time?
Okay, so essentially, safety is one aspect, where everybody can contribute. So, I remember a particular incident, where this happened in Kolkata. So I was doing a Kolkata Bagdogra flight, and it started. So I went down for external visual inspection of the aircraft, and it was raining heavily. So I quickly finished that, came back to the cockpit. So towards the end, there is a security document to be signed. So the security guard who was standing under the wing on the right side, monitoring the cargo loading, he mentioned that he could see some rainbow colors on the tarmac. So, so I went down again to check. So basically what he was pointing out to was a fuel leak. So there was fuel leaking so the fuel is generally stored in the tanks, or the wings, sorry. So, so there was leakage from the wing, and on a rainy day, it is so difficult to spot a leakage. So, that guy who was standing there, made that observation, came and reported it, and he saved the day for all of us. We could have had a fuel starvation or an engine shutdown due to a fuel starvation. So safety is one thing. Another important thing that I learned, or that I still use in my day-to-day life, is an acronym that we use for decision making. In case you have a grave emergency or an emergency on board, it's called FORDEC. So where F stands for facts, O stands for options, R stands for risks, D for decision, E for execute, and C for cross-check. So essentially, when you have to take so I use it in whenever I have to take a major decision. So where I put all the facts together, then I review all the options, then I map out all the risks associated to each option. Then D is the decision, and once I've taken the decision, I execute, and then subsequently I cross-check whether the strategy that I've formulated or the option that I've chosen is having the desired result, and tweak it for the desired outcome if it is not having the desired outcome. So these
Not
are
just in
some,
flying, I'm sure this can be implemented in everybody's
just about
day-to-day.
anywhere,
Yeah.
about anywhere. Yeah.
So, how do you think being in that profession for almost 20 plus years has shaped your personality?
I think any career that you have for a long time, knowingly or unknowingly, has a very deep impact on your personality. For example, punctuality is one trait. Like in the airline industry, you're really embarrassed if you're late to office because everybody's on time. Then everybody's turned out well, so they're wearing the nicely ironed uniform and all of that. So that is that. And another thing that I unknowingly picked up along the way is reading manuals for all the gadgets and vehicles that I drive. Because we are taught the aircraft manual in so much detail that it comes very naturally to, if you find a manual lying anywhere, to just pick it up and read it cover to cover. For example, let me give you, this is something for which my friends tease me a little bit, when they see me reading the operating handbook of a car. So every time I buy something new, I read the handbook. And trust me, there is some really, really interesting information in the handbook. For example, anyone who has more than one car, uh, every time they go to a petrol bunk, the question that comes to my mind, to their mind is, is the fuel filler cap on the left side or the right side? So one need not stress. If you look at the instrument panel right in front of you, there's a fuel tank symbol, and there is a triangle either to the right or to the left. So whichever side the triangle is, that side is where your fuel filler cap
it's
is.
quite simple.
It is. So, so those are small little things, that sort of you pick up unknowingly and they become part of your personality. Yeah.
So typically your observational skills and the way you pick things changes.
Yeah, and also, you develop this habit of reading the manual. Many a times when you buy a new gadget or a new car, the manual comes with everything.
But we
Very
hardly take it and read
correct.
it,
You
right?
read just the need to know type of this thing,
True.
the part of the manual, and the rest is all forgotten. So yeah.
So the pilot journey has been quite interesting. And after all of that interesting and exciting job, what attracted you to drones?
So I think my fascination for drones started around 3 years back when I happened to read a report by PwC on drones and the various use cases, and that's when I developed really deep interest. And the more I read about it, the more I fell in love with the technology. And also, right now drones are separated from other manned aircrafts, vertically, where drones are restricted to fly up to 400 feet. But eventually the drones, the unmanned aircrafts and the manned aircrafts will share the same airspace. So I come from the manned aviation industry, so I understand that airspace and the procedures there very well. So I thought I can contribute towards development of the unmanned industry and making sure that the manned and the unmanned can safely blend in and share the airspace. So.
I'm sure you come with a lot of industry experience of manned aviation. So how do you think you can bring that experience into drones?
So there are plenty of things. So drones is like a new kind of aircraft. So it's a very new nascent technology, and there are plenty of things that the unmanned aviation can learn from the evolution of the manned aviation. And I think where I think I can make a significant impact is the training side of it.
Okay.
So yeah, so I have an organization or a company, which is into training. So we're trying to bring in the rigor and the discipline of the manned aviation into the unmanned aviation side.
So I'm sure the industry experience and your experience put together will offer a lot. So what can we expect from you in person and through your organization?
So basically, the gap that I realized is that the current education system is not geared up for this new technology. It will take a little while for it to catch up. So, my company is partnered with the Aerospace and Aviation Sector Skill Council, which is like the apex body for skill development in aerospace and aviation sector. And we've rolled out a certificate program, where people from various disciplines can do this program and get acquainted with the drone technology and the various entrepreneurial and job opportunities that exist in a very structured manner.
Okay,
Yeah.
so are you a part of the course creation too?
Yes, so I have a content strategy team, and we are currently working on putting that content together, and it's also a technology that will evolve very rapidly. So we'll have to continuously keep tweaking and updating our content. Yeah.
Okay, so what kind of course creation or what are the certifications that will be available from your end?
Okay, so currently we have something called as a drone professional certificate course. It's a joint certificate along with the Sector Skill Council. So that is one, and then subsequently going forward, we are talking to a lot of educational institutes which are showing a lot of interest in this technology, and actually the opportunity is too big to ignore now. So, and every week we read something about drones. There is some news or the other coming at very regular intervals now. So basically with these colleges, we are also trying to integrate drones as part of the syllabus, and offering it as an elective in various streams.
Lovely.
Yeah.
But is it really important to have the certification? Because we see people flying drones in filmmaking for even at the weddings and the film shoot, the photo shoots and all of that.
Right.
And it's legal in India, right? So do you really need the certification?
I think the certificate would definitely help a lot, because there are, the drones are governed by a lot of rules and regulations. People are not very conversant or familiar with those regulations, and they can inadvertently end up flying in an airspace where it is not permitted to fly drones or get into trouble. And as far as the drone licensing goes, anybody who's flying drones for recreational purposes, so the drones have been classified according to weight category. So nano and micro, that is up to 2 kgs. If you're flying for recreational purposes, you do not need a drone pilot license. Everybody else needs a drone pilot license. So it is, it is good to have formal training. It is good to know, where you're not supposed to fly drones. So there is a need to know list of rules that everybody should be familiar with. So in the first course that we've designed, drone professional certificate course, it's an safety and awareness course, which I think would be very, very helpful, and people would be safely able to operate and leverage their drones. Yeah.
However, I understand safety is the important thing, but drones being such a prominent upcoming thing, do you think we have a threat if they are misused?
So I think that's a very relevant question. So just like a knife, you can use it to chop vegetables, or you can use it to slit somebody's throat. So it all depends on who's handling the device. So drones can be used to cause a lot of damage to buildings, people and vehicles and all of that.
Attacks or...
Oh yes, there have been, there was an attack on the Jammu air base some time back. But for that, there are counter drone technologies that are being deployed now. So there are hard kill and soft kill methods to neutralize or to bring down a drone, a rogue drone essentially. So all our sensitive installations and all the military establishments, they will all be protected by counter drone technology very soon.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's great to know. Okay, now let's have more deeper information about drones, that in which sectors prominently we can use drones.
Okay, so the government's been, pushing drones, and, drones can actually improve the sort of efficiency in a lot of different sectors. For example, agri spraying or agrochemical spraying is one of them. So, the farmers who, carry the tank like a backpack and do spraying, they suffer from a lot of adverse impacts, like, skin disorders, all the way up to, breathing issues and cancer due to long-term exposure to these agrochemicals. So what the government intends to do is, in the next 3 to 4 years, get rid of this practice where drones can be very effectively used to spray agrochemicals on crops.
I get that, but how do you connect a farmer living in a village to a drone operating industry or a company or an organization which is in a metropolitan city? So how do you draw a bridge?
Okay, so what we intend to do, and that's also the government's plan, is to take the technology to the rural areas. So there are CSCs and VLEs in rural areas, so you want to leverage that network to create awareness about this technology, do some demo flights in rural areas off the city limits, and create awareness about the technology and the benefits, and also, along with the drone, give a bundled package of training and awareness programs. To take it to the rural areas. So, and besides that, there are plenty of other areas where the drones really shine. One is medical logistics. The Telangana government recently had this medicine from the sky program. So, where medicine is being delivered to hard to reach areas using drones, the vaccines and medicines essentially. Then vertical tower asset inspection is another area where drones do very well. Like a cell phone tower inspection normally takes about 2 to 3 hours, 2 people, climbing up a vertical tower. Whereas a drone can do it in about 20-25 minutes, and you can create a video archive.
So manpower, whatever time they take, it would not even be half of the time for a drone.
Yeah, less than half of the time, and also in terms of safety, you don't have to make somebody climb up a vertical tower. So, and you also have a video archive or a digital twin of the asset.
Oh, whatever you do, it's recorded.
Yes, you can. It's all recorded, and there are multiple photos taken with a bit of overlap, and it's all stitched together. So you have a digital twin, which you can pinch, zoom, all of that, and Yeah.
And not every time the person who goes there will have a proper analyzation of what's happening there.
Yeah, there are times when there is an element of human error, people tend to miss out, but here
Weather conditions also may.
everything, yeah, it makes a lot of difference. So here, you can sort of, since once you have a digital twin, you can go back to it again and again and see something. If you have a doubt regarding something, you can always go back to the digital twin, and you also have a video library or a video archive of the whole thing. Yeah.
And what other sectors? Agricultural, medical, and these telecom industries.
Telecom, it's been made mandatory to survey all national highways in India on a monthly basis using drones.
Okay.
Then there is a scheme called the Swamitva Yojana, which is going on, which is, so essentially the land records in the rural areas are quite hazy, which leads to administrative issues and, other legal hassles. So the government is trying to use drones to map out the abadi areas, of the villages, and create a plus minus 1 centimeter accuracy maps, and give out property cards to people in the villages, so that they can use it to leverage their property to get bank loans and stuff like that.
Got it. This makes a lot of change in their lives for sure.
Yes. This project is going to be completed by 2025, and about 6,25,000 villages are being mapped using drones at the moment.
If that much is going to cover up, are we actually having the enough staff or the efficient people who can go and operate drones?
See, there is a lot of employment being generated by this sector, so there is massive opportunity. I would really encourage the youngsters and the youth, and there is enough and more opportunity for freshers and young talent in this industry. So they should, look at this industry as well. Last 2 years particularly have been pretty tough. A lot of people who passed out, the youngsters, they are entering a very difficult job market. So this is one industry where they should look at, they should look at with a lot of hope.
Now, I'm sure drone industry has that potential, but how many of them are able to even connect to that industry? Lack of awareness, or maybe the reach that it's going to become that big.
Yeah.
So how do you plan through your organization to expand the reach to the rural areas or people who are not well connected with technology or what's happening in the world?
So I think the government is trying to have a lot of these outreach programs, and out of 5-star hotels into the interiors of the country. So so almost like every month there are 2 to 3 outreach programs in different parts of the country, and we are also planning at our own end, to go to different places, reach out to different educational institutes, because drones till now people only, when you talk about drones, the 2 popular use cases that people know of is photography, videography, cinematography, or pizza delivery. So pizza delivery is not happening anytime soon, but then there are so many other ways in which drones are being leveraged, so like Asian Paints, I believe, or a lot of warehousing facilities are using drones to sort of, for inventory management. So, where drones fly up and down the aisle, and, they scan the barcodes and the RFID codes to sort of, manage the inventory. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So how expensive is it to implement drone in our regular day-to-day life?
So, with the drones, basically it's very easy to become an entrepreneur. Like if somebody wants to do a photography or a cinematography, you can buy a drone which is not very expensive, get your drone pilot license. So I think in under 5 lakhs one can become an entrepreneur. And the cost of implementation of the technology depends on the sophistication of the use. So yeah. So if you're deploying it in a mining kind of a situation and all that, then you have to use a very different high-end kind of equipment. You'll be flying drones underground in GPS-denied environments and so on and so forth.
Okay. So with your experience, if somebody wants to pick a career or some entrepreneurial opportunity, what are the must-know things or points for them?
So I think one must be very conversant with the rules and regulations of the drone industry, and one must also understand the limitations of the technology. You know?
Okay.
So these are the two must-know things, and I think the drone professional certificate that we've designed, I think we are trying to achieve that objective of creating awareness about the technology, its potential, as well as certain limitations, regulatory limitations that are there, and also the must-know rules, and also telling them about the various applications where they are being used, just to trigger their imagination in that.
No, I'm sure. I think the moment people understand in different what sectors they can be used, so many more would be interested. So according to your data and analyzation, do you think it's the viable career option for many?
So I think it is a very, very viable career option, and in the next 3 years, so basically we have a liberal drone policy which came out in August this year, and then we had a production linked incentive scheme which came out in September. So, and the combination of this is likely to create a lot of jobs. So as per the government data, about 10,000 direct jobs in the drone manufacturing side, and over 5 lakhs on the drone service side in the next 3 years.
My
So
goodness.
there is a lot of potential, and if people do a Google search of drone jobs in India, or go to a popular job portal like Naukri and type drone jobs, they will see a couple of thousand listings.
Wow.
Yeah.
On this International Civil Aviation Day, what is that message you want to give our viewers?
So I'd say there are a lot of opportunities both on the manned and the unmanned aviation side, and people should look at both the opportunities.
I'm sure you have seen by being in the manned and unmanned aviation industry too. So with your experience and the inputs you have given, that helps a lot more. I'm sure people would be open and choosing the drone industry or the aviation industry on a whole with a different eye. Thank you so much for all the information. It was surely a delight to have you.
Thank you, Archana. Thank you very much.
Thank you.